So the problem that I was addressing was I've been in business for a while, and my accountant wanted to go over some previous tax forms, blah, blah, blah. And he basically said, we have to refile some things for optimization. Great. But then I'm sitting there, and he says, OK, here's a bunch of Excel spreadsheets. And I start groaning. And there's some math in there, and it's just like, oh my God, I have to do all this manually. And he's like, well, my bookkeeper can do it. I'm like, let's solve this problem. So obviously, I don't want to use Excel. I'm just going to be an Elixir guy and write it in Phoenix and Ecto, right? So I'm not showing you my books. So I start with Phoenix and Ecto, and now I start looking over about 5 years worth of returns. And given the nature of consultancy, I have different projects have different things. Sometimes I have payroll, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm running a skunk group project. So slowly, as I start trying to work with Ecto, I start realizing there's no one table that can, well, there's no obvious table that could actually describe what the hell's going on with my receipts or my invoices. Each year is slightly different, and I start groaning again because I'm back to the Excel spreadsheets and trying to unify them somehow for SQL. So this kind of goes into, and if you've seen Babylon 5, this is funny to you. If you haven't, you should go watch it. But Ecto is the wrong tool for this job, or at least SQL is. So I sit there and I've worked with other data stores before, and then I just started using CouchDB. Now the reason this made the job easier all of a sudden was because I have a normal accounting system where I keep things in various parts, like there's digital references to everything. So I could just all import these and just keep everything in its key values as just JSON documents. And receipts are essentially just documents at the end of the day. You build up a couple views, and all of a sudden, your tax years are done. Like, you can just query against the tax years, and whatever peculiarities happened, you can see immediately. And then the business logic got way simpler from what I was dealing with Ecto. All of a sudden, one phone call with my accountant, you just do the math very quickly on a pattern match for whatever's going on in that set of documents for that time, and it's done. And the side effect is you actually get to attach the pictures of the receipts or the PDFs, which makes your accountant really happy because now it's just like audits are super simple. Now I've done a couple things off book here, like for instance, because I decided that there wasn't really a pattern to my receipts, I can't really use a struct anymore, so you rip some things out and move them around. But honestly, my entire accounting app, which replaces a bookmaker, is probably about 60 lines of mostly arcana of Canadian tax system. And the rest of the code is relatively just go fetch me some JSON documents from Couch. And that's it, as opposed to what I was dealing with before, which again, trying to find patterns in tables and all that I just didn't want to deal with. And this goes into a thing that's kind of, as I've been thinking about the Erlang ecosystem, which Lisp flavored Erlang, Elixir, or just straight out Erlang, is think about what problem you're solving. Each tool set comes with a different set of experiences. I do find Elixir has a lot of niceties with maps and structs. LFE I'm not as familiar with, so I'm not going to say what it's very good at, but Robert's around, find him. And Erlang, I have a much easier time in Erlang with straight TCP connections and stuff like that. So just think about what you're doing and then pick the right tool for the job. Like we have this VM, we can use a lot of different tooling. And just don't try to shoehorn just because some tool pre-exists or some library is there. Just think about the problem, and probably your code will get simpler with very little effort. And as for a company I work with right now, is I Want My Name. It's the domain registrar. Largely, we have Erlang in production. We have Elixir quasi in production. Parts of the site are in Elixir, and we're going for a full rewrite. So that's it for me.